Welcome to the Edge of Greatness podcast. The path to greatness is never linear and requires patience and consistency. Join us on our journey as we peel back the layers of success, searching for that elusive core. Each week we will explore a different component of greatness, utilizing experts who have traveled some part of the path that we are all on. We aim to uncover insights into the areas of leadership, coaching, performance, overcoming failure, the power of habits, and so much more. We are all on the edge of greatness. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Edge of Greatness podcast. I'm your host, Charles Schultz, and today I am joined by my friend and powerlifting athlete, Andrew Yeater. Thank you so much for taking time with me today before your big meet coming up. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me. You asked me to be on here, and I thought it was an honor that you asked me. So thank you. You've had some pretty big name people on, so this is very grateful. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm excited to hear your story a little bit about what you're going through, how the preparation's going. I think a lot of my athletes can take a lot from that. Plus, I think the coaches need to understand that there's a process to all this as well. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I don't usually start with an either or question, but I figure with your background in the fitness world, I'm going to start you with one here. All right. So would you rather be big and look physique fit, but weak, or have a leaner, smaller physique and be extremely strong?
That one's hard. Because back in the day when I trained specifically bodybuilding, I would have said physique all day. I didn't care about strength. I wanted to look like I was the strongest. If I wasn't, I didn't care. But now that I've transitioned to more of a strength sport, I think I'm going to have to go with the strength part. Yeah, because that's really what I'm trying to do. And it's always cool when people look at you and like, oh, I doubt he can lift this. And then you do it and they're like, damn.
Yeah, no, I think the performance aspect of powerlifting gives you some sense of confidence when people are like, nah, there's no okay. Yep.
Like you said, the performance aspect too, because there's a big, I don't know, like you can look good and everything, but it doesn't mean you're an athlete. Whereas you could kind of not look like an athlete, but you are an athlete, and a lot of carryover with the strength aspect as opposed to just looking good.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing for a lot of young athletes, especially because as you're growing up, you're developing, some people mature at different speeds. Some people develop muscle differently. And like you said, some kids don't look like athletes, but then you watch them move and they're, wow, okay, that person can play. Is there any advice you would give to these kids about their process when it comes to developing over their younger years? Because obviously you weren't always a strong athlete. You weren't always a big guy, right? But now you're working towards both of those aspects. Is there some advice you would give them?
Enjoy the ride. That's literally the biggest thing. It's going to take time. I graduated high school at 120 pounds. I was never a big guy. I still don't consider myself big. I'm bigger, still would like to be bigger. I mean, I'm always going to chase that wanted to get bigger goal, but like you said, everyone develops differently. I was always the skinny kid. I was never strong. I didn't start lifting weights until I think my junior year in college, and it was for hockey to get stronger to help assist me in that athletic realm. Because I would consider myself an athlete growing up. I was always wanting to play sports and I was always active. So I think that that picture that you just painted, they can be an athlete but not look like it, kind of hits close to home with me because I kind of lived that a little bit. I didn't look impressive or anything, but I was always moving, and I always had like that hunger inside too, which is something I feel like every athlete, at least to some magnitude, has.
Yeah, no, I think that hunger is big, and the competitiveness. And can you tell me a little bit about what it is about powerlifting and weightlifting that has drawn you in so much? Because I feel like over the last year and a half, 2 years, you've really like dove in deep in wanting to
big time
get into this.
So I think it's very close to 2 years ago now. So I separated my shoulder playing hockey, and I had to take a few weeks off of the gym or whatever. And I was like, man, this is miserable, whatever. But I was healing, so I was okay with it. And then when I finally got cleared to like lift or whatever, I told my fiance now that I'm just like, well, I kind of want to dabble in powerlifting. It's something I haven't ever really done before, but it looks cool. I see a few people like on Instagram where, I mean, that's where you get your external motivation and everything. And I tried it, and I was like, I think I'm going to try a powerlifting meet just to see what it's all about. I self-coached my first meet, and I was like, I'm not going to pay for a coach and do the experience. And if I hate it, I feel like I would have just almost wasted that money kind of. Once I did the meet, I was like, I really like this. My numbers weren't great, but I was like, it's a good starting point. Let's see how far I can take this. And that's I think, favorite thing with powerlifting is you're pushing the extremes. I'm always continually trying to get stronger and better. Technique, as you get stronger and bigger, it's going to change a little bit. So you're always learning also. I mean, I'm still learning new things here and there, like the small technique tweaks and cues and stuff like that. So like I said, I always just want to keep getting stronger.
Yeah. It sounds to me like you're curious about the evolution of things too, as you get better. And I think that's a valuable piece for all my athletes and coaches to take away, is that curiosity to want to get better and to evolve over time. Can you talk to me a little bit about some of the things that you've developed and learned from the beginning when you started to where you're at now, that you would be like, I would have never thought that this would be my progression, or something along those lines?
Yeah. So I want to say mental toughness, but at the same time, I wrestled in high school. So I always thought that I was mentally tough. I always thought I could push my limits and everything, but I feel like there's a different mental toughness when it comes to pushing heavy load. And then there's like a more cardio aspect, kind of what wrestling kind of is, because cardio is king for that. If you can't go the full 3 rounds, you're dead in the water. But getting stronger, pushing those loads, potentially failing a lift, but having to have that mental capacity to take a step back, breathe, decide where you are, just look at how you failed it. Was it just pure lack of strength, or was it more technique based? And like I said, you got to calm yourself about that too, because there have been plenty of times I've broken the lever on my lifting belt multiple times from getting hot-headed and just slamming on the ground because I got frustrated. And it's not the way to go. It's how I dealt with it then. But it's, like I said, having that I don't know, that vision of why did it happen? Can I change it? And if you think it's more technique based, I always say, let's try it again. If I can fix my technique and it goes up, perfect. It answers my question. So it's just, I think the mental aspect for me is very, like you said, curious.
Yeah. No, I think mental development and mental abilities is oftentimes a differentiator between the successful and the unsuccessful. So I'm curious about something for you. You spoke to failure during that answer. Can you think to a time when you suffered a failure during this journey that made you question your journey?
Mm-hmm.
Or even change directions?
Change directions? Ooh, I don't think that, because when I go from meet to meet, my first and foremost goal is I want to, even if it's 5 pounds, I want to increase my lifts. I want to PR my lifts at least every meet, because that tells me, well, it might be slow progress, but I am still getting stronger. So I haven't had a meet yet where I haven't. So I haven't questioned anything just yet. But there have been times, like in gym and everything, where I've failed a lift where I feel like I shouldn't have. And I always question myself, am I hitting my threshold, basically? And that had, for, like I said, that split second, I did question, like, is this like, am I tapped out of my strength? But looking back at previous meet preps and everything, I failed multiple lifts every single prep. It happens. Your body gets fatigued. You feel like garbage, and you're still trying to push those maximum loads. I mean, the very, I'm going to say, this unique and cool thing about powerlifting is the meet prep itself is to beat your body down at a very high, intense and load weight. But then the week prior to the meet is where you rest, you let your body fully recover, but your strength is still there. And then meet day, boom, big things happen. It's just, like I said, it's phenomenal. So I don't think I've hit a position where I've questioned like my journey currently, but I've had those almost oh shit moments. What's going on? Thoughts.
Yeah. And I think what makes me so intrigued with the powerlifting world is the combination of, like you've mentioned now, the physical aspect and the mental combination, because there's something about trying to lift something when you're mentally fatigued, you're physically fatigued, you're wearing your body down. There's this, I don't know how to explain it, this feeling that you get like, what am I doing to myself? Am I even going to be able to like get back up after this type of sensation? When people go through these journeys in life and they have these difficult moments, what kind of things have you learned through powerlifting that you think might help them during the difficult stuff?
There's almost two fronts. There's one part where it's like you could physically feel amazing, but mentally you're not there, and your body could act in a certain way. And then on the other end of the spectrum, where mentally you feel invincible, but your body feels like crap, and it could they could act the same, almost like you could lift the same weight, but it could feel 100% different. I've had many days like that where I walk into the gym, I'm like, man, my body feels awesome. But then I start warming up and I was like, mentally, I'm just kind of not there. But I push, like, try to go back. Like, I was like, well, I got to be mentally tough on this day. Let's just push through it and see what happens. Ends up being a good day. And then there are other days where you have your prescribed numbers you're supposed to hit. My body feels like trash, but I'm like, I felt in the zone and like committed to the gym that day. So I'm just like, well, let's still push through it. And again, hit the numbers and everything. So it's, I don't know, best of both worlds, I'd say. You get opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. And so basically from this, it sounds like you're learning how to compete, whether you physically feel good or mentally feel good. And it doesn't matter if one of them's missing, you understand how to go compete then.
Exactly. Yeah. And that goes back to like, almost like that drive and that hunger of, I'm doing it for a reason. I'm doing it, like, powerlifting is a selfish sport. I'm doing it for me. I know like I said, I want to get the strongest I can, and I want to keep getting as strong as I can. So I know it's very selfish and stuff like that, but continually pushing forward, just putting your nose to the grindstone, if you will. Like, there's no pretty way to say it. You do the work.
You know, it's interesting you use the word selfish, because I think it gets a bad rep. I don't think there's anything wrong with being selfish. I think there's times where when you're pursuing, when you're pursuing excellence and you're pursuing winning, you have to do what's right for you.
Exactly.
And so to want to be stronger and to want to be great at something, you have to make the decisions that benefit that journey. And so, yeah, sometimes it comes off as maybe selfish, but in a way, if you own that, I feel like there's value in being a little bit selfish and knowing that this is the journey and the path I'm on. Yeah. And it makes you stronger.
Yep. I agree. And like, there are even times, like, I've noticed more this meet prep than other preps. I've had some of the athletes at the gym come up and like talk to me, or just like, hey, I've thought about like doing this and this in my lift. What do you think? Like, almost just asking for advice. And it's never really happened before. And I was kind of dumbfounded that they were coming to me asking, but I again felt flattered that they even came up like asking for advice or whatever. And I try to help them out. And then you see them again, like, hey, I did what you said or what have you. And it worked. I was like, perfect. I'm glad I could help, like, genuinely glad I could help. So it does take a little bit of that selfishness away from it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. There's a difference between being a selfish winner and being a selfish loser. And you're on a quest to win. It doesn't mean you're not there to try to help others when they ask, but you have a tunnel vision to what you're trying to accomplish. And I think those out there who are trying to pursue big things shouldn't be discouraged from having some selfish goals in mind. Would you agree with that?
I agree. Like, you look at every athlete at some point in their life, it's been about them and their goal. Mm-hmm. And they've used that vision and purpose to take them to the next level. So it is almost part of every athlete's, I'll say, DNA. You have, at some point, you got to think about you and and only you, you know?
Yeah. And I think that as a whole, as a society, as a world, as a community of humans, we are genuinely looking out for ourselves. So there is that selfish need, but you have to be aware of it and own it. And I think that's the biggest thing of it all, is knowing when and how you're using that selfishness and what you're using it for.
Agreed. Yep.
So I love that you mentioned that, because it was a cool little like side conversation there about your journey. So what is the next step on your phase? Because I know you're prepping right now. You're getting ready for your next meet. What is it that you're looking to accomplish with this meet in particular?
Well, it goes back to like my first goal: continue to PR day in and day. Oh, not day in and day out, but from meet to meet. I'm very confident that I'm going to out total my previous total and get PRs in my lifts. So that's always just like my small term goal. But then I also set like almost larger goals that are currently unattainable, but almost like within reach, so I can keep pushing towards those. So like for squat, long term, like that far fetch, I'd like to get my 550 squat, 340, 350 bench, and then a 650 deadlift. So those are, like I said, my far fetch ones.
Yeah.
And coming in fresh, as opposed to being super fatigued and my body just beat down, I think I'm going to surprise myself and be closer to those numbers than I think I am, which is really encouraging.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that those, in my opinion, those wouldn't be that far-fetched. Yeah, they're a little bit off from your current PRs. I mean,
right.
650 from 610 on the deadlift, that's not a huge jump in the legs pulling world, right? In the deadlift world, you could make that in a meet potentially.
Yeah, so it's really funny. I like this whole prep, I'm going to say deadlift has been my struggle, which is usually my deadlift is like my lift. Like I know I can always hit that. And I talked with my coach a little bit. He's like, man, you just got to realize how fatigued you are. And then he asked me one question. He's like, what was your top single last prep before you smoked 600 and made it look almost effortless? And it was 570. So I had a 30-pound gap in training that I hit 570 and thought it was the hardest thing ever. Then come time for the meet, hit 600 and honestly probably had a little bit more in the tank. So I'm hoping that carries over. Like I hit 610 in training. It felt hard, felt very humbling, but I'm hoping with this rest and my taper and everything that I can almost get that 40-pound gap to hit that number then.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the interesting piece of it all, is that when we're working so hard towards a goal, the work sometimes seems to be difficult. And I love that you mentioned that you look back on where you came from, because I think too often we get stuck living in the tough that we're in, in the hard moments, and we don't take time to reflect back on, well, yeah, this is hard, but look at how much further I've come from where I was. And speaking to that value of, man, I am way up the mountain further than I thought I'd be at this point. So
100%. Yeah. I still remember my first meet numbers and everything. Just I think that starting point, I had a 407 squat, 275 bench, and a 507 deadlift. And I'm blowing those numbers out of the water now, but it's cool to look back and be like, back then when I hit those numbers, I was like, man, I am awesome. I'm untouchable. And then I get back in the gym, like, let's beat them. Let's continue to work and drive forward. And that's, to this day, it's still what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. And it's pretty incredible to think that you are up almost 100 pounds in your deadlift, almost 100 pounds in your squat.
Yeah.
And another 50 plus in your bench.
Yeah. It's cool. It's a fun ride.
In a short period of time too. In weightlifting terms, that's not a long career you've had to this point. I mean, 2 years.
Yeah. But there are some outliers too, where they can put that much weight on from prep to prep and we'll say 4 or 5 months. Mm-hmm. And then there are others who I think it's just because I didn't powerlift. Like I always think of like powerlifting's almost a curve. You have your newbie gains, if you will. Mm-hmm. So you make quick progress and then it starts to taper off a little bit. It's kind of a give and take at that point, because there are some people who meet to meet, they might not PR one lift, but they're like, well, I PR'd my total, so I'm okay that way too.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to somebody who maybe is starting on a new journey and they see massive results, but then they hit that point where inevitably it's going to start to taper off and slow down a little bit? How do they manage that zone to continue to want more?
All right. So I have a few thoughts on that. So if I get sidetracked, just bring me back to center. Always remember why you started in the first place. Have that goal of, well, I started this to just get better at whatever it may be. Always remember that, because like if you forget that, you're doing it for nothing. Like I said, my goal was continue to get stronger and reach out. I've since hired a powerlifting coach. He's great. He's worked with me for the past year and a half, almost. Past year and a half or whatever, and seen results mentally and physically. Like mentors are huge in any athlete's world. You reach out to somebody, ask for feedback, and everything. It goes a long way. Another thing, enjoy being uncomfortable. Like that's where the results are. You don't make great results by doing so. I wouldn't get stronger at bench press if the only thing I did was a 5x5 with 135 pounds every day. If you're not challenging yourself, you're not getting better. There's a person I follow on Instagram. His name's Joel Sullivan. He has a saying, adapt or die. If your body's not adapting, you're diminishing yourself. So if you're not progressively hitting your body hard, trying to get bigger, faster, stronger, your body's going the exact opposite way. So it's just keep pushing forward, basically, you know?
Yeah, no, there are so many things I liked about that answer, because I think you're right. We lose sight of the why when it's tough, because we get stuck in the moment when it's difficult. But I love the idea of reaching out for help, because I think so often today we think we have to do everything on our own. Like it's my journey. It's not somebody else's journey. I have to stick it out by myself. So talk to me about your support system, because I know you've got several people who reach out and are in your corner and are kind of pushing you to stay through at the process. When things get tough, you can bounce stuff off them. So talk to me about your support system and how that's helped you along this journey.
Yeah, I'd say I have a pretty big support system. Like everyone that's either have it be like the super fit gym family or whatever, everyone's always just like, hey man, when's your next meet or whatever. And if I tell them like, good luck, I'm pushing for you. But my number one is my fiance, Shelby. She's actually the one who told me, let's do this thing. Kind of like, I was like, what do you think about me powerlifting? She's like, well, all right, well, let's do this. Like, it was never, yeah, you can do this or whatever. It was a we thing to her. She's at 90% of all my training sessions. Sometimes she doesn't go. I don't care. It's fine. She's been to every one of my meets, and I've only done one that's been local. All the other ones have been in Miami and Las Vegas. Like she's always traveled with me. She always makes sure I have everything. If I have really bad days in the gym mentally, she's always in my corner. Like always, it's like, it happens, like grow from it. It'll be fine. So having her is probably one of the biggest blessings I could have had to even begin this journey. Having somebody in your corner 100%, it goes a long way. And then my coach, Alex, kind of the same aspect, but I pay him to say it. So, but I mean, he said the same things whenever I voice frustrations with how things are. He's like, he walks me through the process, and he's like, you're feeling this way because of this certain aspect, or how was your sleep the night before? Like different, like scientific methods or what have you. And then all my friends and everything, they're always, man, you're looking strong. Everything's looking good. Hey, remember back in the day when you couldn't do like 300 pounds or whatever, like going back to putting it into perspective. It's just, even Duke at the gym, he's seen my last 2 meet preps or whatever. And he's like, it's crazy to see how much we've changed just in those 6-7 months or what have you. Cause he's even told me sometimes where he's having hitting practice with some of his guys, and he like makes them stop and like watch one of my heavy lifts. And he's like, he couldn't do that 6 months ago, but he kept digging after it, kept trying, and look where he's at now, like using it to that trust the process mentality.
I think there's so much value in having those people to lean on. And I love the fact that the Superfit family is a part of your support system, because obviously we're all your fans. We're enjoying your process. I love watching you go and compete with yourself and get stronger and do big things. And one of the cool things too is for the young athletes that come in, they see the grind, like they see the daily effort and the work that takes place, because a lot of these kids see the end results too often. Yep. And they don't get the journey. They don't understand that part.
Yep. Well, even sometimes they could come in and I'll just like see somebody squatting 4 plates aside and it's like, man, I can't do that. What am I doing here? You know what I mean? Like they don't know how long I've been in the gym. When I see new people into the gym, like new people you guys are training, and I happen to talk to them, the first thing I always ask them is, hey, how old are you? Because I'm genuinely curious. And 9 times out of 10, it's like, they're either 12, 13, 14 years old, kind of like that young adult age. Mm-hmm. I look at them like, I didn't start touching weights until I was 21 years old. You're already 7, 8 years ahead of me.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing, keep getting better, and you'll be smoking this weight in no time.
Yeah. And there's something to be said about the compound effect of weightlifting, or even pursuing anything.
Yes.
The more consistent.
Yep. What you see is always the top of the mountain, but not a lot of people see the base and how you built it up and the long hours you've put into it.
Yeah.
Granted, it's a hobby, you know what I mean? It's not like my job or anything, but I thoroughly enjoy doing this. Going back to how skinny I was, I told myself I never want to be that small, that weak again. And that's my driving factor to always being in gym, because I'm a creature of habit. I have my set schedule. I'm usually always in the gym at these days, these times, or whatever. So it's just a process of that.
Yeah. You talked just previously about this being a hobby for you. Are there ways for it to become more than that? Is there a professional powerlifting world? Is there something you can dabble into?
Yes and no. There are some meets that are they have a decently prize money for winning it. But I don't think I could ever get to that strong. But I'm okay with that. Like I know some things are just unattainable. Nowadays, though, especially with social media, I don't know if it'd be more powerlifting related, but it would be more of like a social media influencer type. Like if you could get a big enough following, like if you could have like that one viral video or something like that mm-hmm. gains you a lot of popularity and follows and stuff like that, you could almost reap those benefits and make money off of that. Gotcha. But powerlifting is like a sport and money maker, not really there yet. There are some people who are trying to get these big meets, big money meets and bringing in the best of the best to compete. So it's a legit who's the best out there for $30,000 or $40,000 cash prize. So I mean, there's a good chunk of change that can be made, but yeah, I probably won't see any of that, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So then how do you balance the amount of time and effort you put into it with the routine of being employed, having a family, working with, obviously a fiance and planning a wedding? Because obviously a lot of people, when they pursue stuff, they work on that work-life balance, whatever. I don't like that term. I heard a good one the other day in an interview. It's work-life integration. And how do you create that uniformity across
almost?
Yeah. So what is it for you that you do to make that all fit, because of the amount of time and effort it takes to get strong? It's not like you can just go in, lift for 30 minutes and be like, all right, man, I'm stronger today. It's a process. So it takes time.
100%. Well, like I said before, biggest thing is my fiance. She understands what I'm trying to do. So like, again, it kind of goes back to selfish. A lot of my days revolved around when I'll train. So I work the standard 8 to 4 job or what have you. And then I'll go home, see her for a little bit, play with the dog. So he at least can see me and he's just not like, where's dad, whatever. And then we get ready for the gym. We go to the gym for a couple hours, depending on how how long I take, because when you get towards the end of a prep, they can be some long sessions just because the rest periods are pretty insanely long because you're so tired. But and we do that, then we go home, eat, and kind of just, I want to say, spend the rest of that evening like just with each other and like having that connect, like, I don't know what the word I'm looking, just that interaction with each other of, hey, how's your day? How are you? Like, kind of not having the rest of the night on me or on our goals or whatever. It's just living that normal life, that bringing back to normal how it should be.
Gotcha.
It might not be glamorous or anything, but it's what I wanted to do, and what she always is like, well, I knew what I signed up for, kind of thing. So what she signed up for.
So real quick, I'm curious about this. Where you're at now, if you were to set the ultimate, like, oh my God, I can't believe I made it numbers, what would those be for you right now in your mind? What's that number
right
like?
Now?
Yeah, right now. If you were to pick when you finished powerlifting, when you were all done, and you look back on your career and the lifting and the stuff that you did, what's the number that you truly want to see for each of those lifts? What are you shooting for as an ultimate, man, that's my mountaintop?
Yeah. That might be hard, just because once, let's say hit it, I want to keep going. You know what I mean? I want to keep going. It's a big thing in powerlifting is a 2,000 pound total. I think that would be like the topping on the cake or what have you. Like, if I somehow do that, that would be amazing. I think that is very unrealistic for me. Right now, I think it would be cool. Like I said, more short-term goals or more realistic. I think a 600 pound squat would be awesome. A 4-5 bench would be awesome. And then a 700 pound deadlift. So for lift numbers, that would be, I think, really cool. But then super long-term, if I could have a chance at a 2,000 pound total, that would be wicked.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was wondering, as far as like, what's that number that stands in your mind that you're chasing, that you're like, man, if I could ever get to that, I would be beyond just like geeked out about everything.
Exactly. Yeah, I would. Even if I just hit those numbers, I'd be super geeked out. And then the previous numbers I mentioned about what I would like to hit for the meet, if I hit those, I'm going to still be geeked out.
Oh yeah. And that's what's great about it, is that you can consistently hit little steps, you know, you have little benchmarks along the way that you can go, okay, this was good. All right, this was good. And those little benchmarks just build the momentum for you.
Exactly. Yeah. You see that and you're just like, man, I'm hitting a PR. What I'm doing is working. Let's keep doing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So last thing I want to do here before I let you get back to the rest of your day and getting ready for your trip, because I know you leave tomorrow, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. What advice would you give for somebody who's new to pursuing a great goal that seems like, you've mentioned a few times, this is out of my reach, but I don't think you do that with this like doubting of your abilities. You do it with this realistic expectation. And so what would you give as far as advice for a younger person who's setting out to achieve something that others are saying, I don't know if you can do that?
Forget what they say. They have no power over what you're capable of or what you're willing to do for it. Like, you'll have people say, oh man, you can't do that. Okay, cool. I know you won't because of your mentality or how you're saying it. You know what I mean? Just the outside noise. Sometimes you just have to zone out and just forget about it. If you have a goal, it might be cliche, write it down, put it, like, hang it somewhere where you can see it. Just always remind yourself of your why, going back to that why. And why do you want to do it? And then what are you doing to reach that goal?
I love that. No, I think that's an important, I think that's an important piece, because there's always going to be noise in the background.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's up to you whether or not you listen to it.
Yep.
So I love the idea of writing it down. I think that's important, in knowing your why. But the biggest thing, like you said, ignore it. Because if they don't have the faith that you're going to do it, it's because they can't do it. And that's why they're looking at you that way.
Exactly. And once you do get there and you hit that goal that you previously said, and then they come back saying, oh man, I'm so happy for you. Just be like, are you though? Because I remember when you said I couldn't do this, and now look. It's fun when things change.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. So if any of my listeners want to follow along with your journey, see what you're doing next, see what the training looks like for you, where can they kind of connect with you? What do you want to put out there for them to connect and follow with your journey?
Yeah, I usually just post on Instagram. If I have like a good week of lifting or a good lift I want to highlight, usually I'll throw it up on there. So just my Instagram. It was my name, but I changed it. It's Yeater now. So YEATRAIN.
All right, yeah. And I'll make sure I put it in the show notes so that they can connect with you and see what's going on. But I really appreciate you taking time with me today. I think you added a lot of value to what the journey looks like because you've experienced it. You know what it takes to take the little steps to find the mountaintop. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't land on top. You have to work your way up there. And I think that's valuable. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, enjoy the process. You're going to have days where it's going to suck, but enjoy the suck too. You know what I mean? You just have to enjoy what you're doing. Like people are always like, man, how do you go into the gym so often, lift so heavy? It's not really it is a chore, but at the same time, it's not a chore. I thoroughly enjoy going into the gym, pushing my body to what are my current limits and stuff like that. And it's just something that I am in love with at the moment. So it's work, but it's not work at the same time. So yeah, just enjoy what you do and keep pushing yourself and look back at where you started. Always have that reference of, boy, I was here. Now I'm here. It'll blow your mind what you can do when you stick to a plan and are consistent with the work you put in and out of the gym too. And it'll blow your mind.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure. Good luck in the upcoming meet. I'll be watching and paying attention for sure. And as always, guys, keep reaching for the stars, fall flat on your face. But remember, whenever we fall, always get up. Thank you for joining us today on the Edge of Greatness podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and join us again next time as we continue to dig deeper into the key components of greatness. The path to greatness is never linear, so remember to keep pursuing greatness no matter what. Keep stretching your abilities, reach for the stars, and fall flat on your face. But no matter what happens, remember, whenever we fall, always get up. Until next time, I'm Charles Schultz, and this was the Edge of Greatness podcast. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Please take a moment now to subscribe, rate, and review our show. We are all on the edge of greatness.